6 months later, we did over $1 million in cash again. It just goes to show when I do what you tell me, I make money. When I do what you tell me, I don't make money.
Success in a relationship changes everything. I'm all about process, structure, and routine. Process in a marriage doesn't sound sexy, but you end up having a lot more sex.
How you help visionary entrepreneurs on the tactical level.
And so the first thing is I would say is pull the target closer. The second thing for a $120,000 entrepreneur is get yourself some.
This week, I'm getting Mercedes S580. I'm excited for it.
Congratulations, man. That's a beautiful car.
Welcome, fam. Today we have a very special guest, one that has greatly impacted my life, one that we started working together in 2018, and one that every single time I listen to him, I make money, and every single time I don't, and I try to be fancy, I lose money. Alex, thank you so much for taking the time. I really, really appreciate it. I admire you a lot, and to this day, it's one thing that I trust me every single time I do what you say, and have told me since 2018 I make money, and every single time I don't make as much money. So thank you so much.
I appreciate you, brother. Thanks this way.
Alex has helped a lot of businesses, like probably every single person inside the ClickFunnels community that has reached the multiple millions, 9-figure level has gone through your stuff and has used it, including myself. Yeah. So for those that don't know you, just introduce yourself.
I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've run multiple 7- and 8-figure businesses. Wrote a book called The Entrepreneurial Personality Type, which is a manifesto about who we are as entrepreneurs and how we can do more in our lives and how we can stay in momentum, create momentum for ourselves and stay there. Today, I run a company called Simple Operations, where we show visionary entrepreneurs how to hire a team of true believers so that they can grow and scale their business without having to do everything themselves, and how they can systematically go from working tactically to more strategically in their business over time, and really have the freedom and the lifestyle and everything that we want as entrepreneurs by putting the right systems and structure in place.
I love that. Every single time I listen to your podcast, that intro, it's like it hits. So for some reason, it always hits a nerve that I don't even know how to explain it. For those that don't know, explain a little bit what you mean about how you help visionary entrepreneurs on the tactical level. Because like in my head, before I went through your stuff, implemented some of the stuff, it was very like up in the air. I didn't know how to like grab it. For example, marketing is like, okay, Facebook ad, $1 in, $2 out, scale, great. In this case, in my head, at least, it was like more up in the air, and like, I don't know how to ground it and make it like real, if you will.
When you look at visionary entrepreneurs, and when you look at entrepreneurs of any kind, you know, we are that percentage of the population that is willing to take a tremendous amount of risk and a tremendous amount of exposure in order to earn this thing that we call freedom or lifestyle or like what we want. And the unspoken truth of the entrepreneurial world, and kind of the little secret of the entrepreneurial world, is that most entrepreneurs, we work way more than somebody who's in a job. You know, we want this thing called freedom, but we end up in a place where we're usually trapped in our businesses. And I think it's scary and exposing and vulnerable for entrepreneurs to talk about that. But Josue, I can't tell you how many times I've been in an event, or I've seen an ad, or, you know, I've been in an audience. There's somebody on stage talking about their level of success, which is valid because they do have a high level of success. But I also know that person personally, and I know that they are struggling on a daily basis to get everything done. They're completely buried in the tactics of their business. If they have a team, the team's constantly interrupting them and asking them for God minutes and trying to get information from them, and they feel like they're in that place of overwhelm as a business owner. What I show entrepreneurs how to do, create the process and the structure and the systems, the operating system within a business, so that you as the entrepreneur are no longer the driving force of the business on a day-to-day tactical level, always on a long-term strategic, but day-to-day, how do we put a system in place so that you can run your business through process, not personality? And so many of us are used to running our business by personality that we don't know there's a better way, and there definitely is.
So what do you mean when you say running a business by personality? What do you mean exactly by that?
This is the business I ran in my 20s, Josue. When I was 21, I became a consultant. I had a company called Sales Out. We worked with large multinational computer and consumer electronics providers, and I had a team of independent sales reps throughout Latin America. Or not independent, they were with us full time, but we were an independent sales and agency manufacturers rep and marketing company. If I didn't show up every day, 6 out of 7 days, like it really was that bad, the company didn't do what it needed to do. and the trains didn't run on time and things didn't happen like they needed to. I was running the business by personality. It was literally telling people what to do, checking that it got done, telling them what to do again, and just staying in that loop endlessly. And in my 20s, I had a lot of energy. I was willing to work 7 days a week. I was willing to work every day of the year, which I almost did. That's running your business by personality. You know, that's showing up and making sure that you're the driving force behind the business every day. When you look at truly successful entrepreneurs, they don't do that. They run their business through process, structure, and routine. When there is a system that runs the business, you don't have to be there every day. And that's the dream of most entrepreneurs, is like, I want a business that I can pour my time into, that I can put energy into, that I can get results from, but I don't feel trapped in on a day-to-day basis. And so when you have the right operating system in the business, those things happen. The team can work independently. Rather than your team following behind you and trying to figure out where you're going, you can get your team out in front of you and have them executing ahead of time.
I love that. So here's like an interesting story that happened to me recently. Yeah, I don't even remember when we started in 2018. I was like doing the whole check-in, check-out, like all that stuff. And for some odd reason, brought in somebody, an operator a couple months ago. For some reason, I stopped doing what you told me to do. And then I started checking in and checking out, like that entire thing. So I took the entire almost month of March off. So I went to Brazil, Colombia, Argentina, everything. And the business took a massive dip. Like I'm talking like catastrophic, like almost nuclear. What the actual crap is going on? And then I came back. I think I have a mistake of being way too forgiving. Last month, I had to finally let go of the person that was like micromanaging and like doing wrong with the team. And in literally less than, I want to say like less than 3 weeks of implementing back what I knew should be there from the first place, we've just gone back to numbers that we didn't have before. And this is like being banned and hacked and all this stuff. I want to say almost by magic, because I still, to this day, I don't understand how I do what I do, because I just produce money out of thin air. Sometimes I feel like, but most importantly, your system somehow just aligns people, especially the team members, in a way where in my head as a visionary entrepreneur, I do not understand why it works, but it works.
Let me help you, Josue. Yeah. So I think here's the issue for almost every visionary entrepreneur, especially those like, let's talk very specifically. If you're a visionary entrepreneur who's bootstrapped, you haven't taken on investments, you don't have like some big bank account behind you, you started the business on your own, so you did a lot to get the business up and running, and you were the person who drove everything. It's very hard once you start hiring a team to go from doing everything to specializing and doing what you should be doing. It's very hard to go from making all the decisions to sharing decision making. It's very hard to go from always understanding the outcome, because you're the one executing it, to communicating that clear outcome to a team. You know, there's a difference between you and I and the people on our teams. Sometimes they're very similar to us and they have a lot of the same sensitivities and a lot of the same abilities that we have. And here's the difference. They can't see the same future we see because it's only in our heads. And the biggest issue I believe that visionary entrepreneurs have is that we see this future so clear and so bright, and it makes so much sense to us. And by the way, a lot of times we think it's easy to get there. It's like, oh, this is so easy. Like we can do this. And we don't adequately communicate it to our teams so that they can get out in front of us and make it work. And so what we show entrepreneurs how to do in our, what we call the simple operations system, is how to provide the team with a clear plan so they understand exactly where they're going, a clear execution system so they know what to do on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, and a clear way to go out and make a difference for the clients and the members and the company, and how to work together to actually make everything work. And when your team has a clear plan, an execution system, and they understand what each other is doing, immediately the type of people who go to work in companies like ours start doing better, and they start executing at a higher level, and they have a higher level of confidence, and they get more excited about their jobs, and you get discretionary effort. You know, as entrepreneurs, we always give discretionary effort to our companies. Discretionary effort is like when you're standing in the shower and you're thinking about the business. You're driving and you're thinking about the business. You're working out, you're thinking about the business. Most of our team members don't do that because they don't really have a clear idea of where they're going. When they have ultimate clarity about where they're going, the place where they're going to get the most momentum in their lives is from working in your business, and then you get discretionary effort and businesses explode. And we have a long track record of taking companies that had struggle growing, had a tough time growing, were stuck at a certain area, plateaued at a certain level, and have blown up to become multiple 8-figure businesses.
I love that. So what would you say, why do you feel that micromanaging or checking in, checking out, why does that not work? Like, if it makes logical sense, it's like, hey, I tell you to do XYZ, then you go do XYZ, and then I check in for you to see if you did XYZ, and then I just give you the next X. Why does that model to grow a company does not work?
Because the people who go to work in entrepreneurial businesses, the people who A players, let's qualify this. The good people who go to work in entrepreneurial businesses, they want clarity. They want to know where they're going and why. They don't want to work on one piece of the puzzle and then have you give them the next piece. That feels like massive constraint to them. When they know what the outcomes are and where they're going, they're going to put a lot more energy into what they're doing. A players can't stand micromanagement, but here's the issue. What we see as micromanagement as entrepreneurs, and we often say like, okay, I'm just going to leave them independent, but A players crave feedback. They need to have a perspective on whether they're doing well or not. And if you're giving them one piece of the puzzle at a time, like, hey, do this until Wednesday, and from Wednesday I'll tell you what to do on Friday, they're not really, they can't be autonomous. They can't go out and perform. They can't overperform. They're in this place of constant constraint of waiting for you to tell them what to do. And there are people who are willing to work in that environment. The problem is they're usually not the best team members. They're not usually the ones who are going to go out and, I can't remember who had the quote, but the difference between an A player and an A plus player is millions of dollars. And A plus players, they want outcomes, they want clear perspective, and they want to understand exactly what their responsibility is. And if you're doling it out one step at a time, it just never feels like they can get anything done.
I agree. So here's something that was like an epiphany moment for me in the last couple of months when all this stuff happened was team members saying, I feel relief that we're going back to this. And here's something interesting and funny. You told me to do more meetings than I want to. So it feels in paper, it feels more constrained, but it's more free. I'm not sure, like in my head, it's like, again, it makes no sense because it's like, you're telling me, hey, look, listen, you need to do a daily huddle. You need to do a weekly huddle. You need to do a monthly, a quarterly, a yearly, make sure that every single thing is accounted for and there's systems in place. And in my head, it's like, holy crap, it sounds like a lot. Can I just go work? It's like, can I just go do shit versus, but funny enough is going back to the same system. It just works.
It takes less time. Like here's the math, Josue. We've done thousands of time studies with entrepreneurs, at times with visionaries. And a time study is where for 2 weeks you write down everything that you're doing. And here's what we found. The average visionary entrepreneur works somewhere between 40 to 60 hours a week. That's average. There's people who work less. There's people who work way more. And the average entrepreneur is spending somewhere from 50 to about 75% of their time just getting everything done in the business, tactically buried in the business with telling people what to do, checking they got done, telling them what to do. Like when you do a time study, you see this in black and white. And coming into our system, coming into the operation system, it's so interesting how often a visionary will say like, no, this is too many meetings. But here's the math. If you're spending 50 to 75% of a 40 to 60 hour work week, you're spending somewhere between 1,000 to 2,250 hours a year just getting the business to run. When you put in place our system of having the annual, the quarterly, the monthlies, weekly, and then daily huddles, it's plus or minus about 300 hours a year total with preparation, with participation, everything. So we go from 1,000 to 2,250 to 300. Your team executes at a far higher level and they need way less from you. So one of the big hurdles we overcome all the time is entrepreneurs saying, I don't want a meeting on my calendar. But a lot of times after they do the time study, they're like, man, I didn't realize how much time I was already spending in meetings that aren't on my calendar. And so when you make it intentional, when you go from haphazard and coincidental meetings, stuff that comes up, and you make it intentional and have a plan for each time you get together with your team, everything in the business shifts. It grows faster, you spend less time tactically, and your entire team can do more.
I can safely say, I'm going to say this multiple times, I said it before, is that when I do what you say, I make money. When I do what you say, I don't make money. And here's something crazy. We started working together in 2018. I was pinnacle of the world, top of the world, growing extremely crazy and fast. A year later, I started working at a gas station as a cashier. I don't know if you know this.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I ended up, so I think we started working in August 2018, something like that. A year later, I was as a cashier working in a gas station in Florida. And there's multiple reasons, including immigration and a bunch of other stuff. But part of it was not putting the right systems in place, not putting the right things in place. A year goes by, and then July 2020 comes. I leave the gas station job, and what did I end up going back to? The same system that you told me. Just a year later, after leaving the gas station job, 6 months later, we did over $1 million in cash again. It just goes to show that, again, when I do what you tell me, I make money. When I do what you tell me, I don't make money. Very ironic that I'm still stubborn enough. I think it's part of the visionary entrepreneur, is that we just try to be contrarian. When I don't do what you tell me to do, I end up losing money somehow. I do want to touch and expand a little bit. If somebody's hearing you right now and they're like, hey, I'm running a business, right? Let's just say I'm getting a couple sales, maybe like 10,000 a month, which is like 120 a year, the 6-figure range. To go from the 6-figure range to the 7-figure range, what would you say, apart from marketing and sales, but tactically and team-wise, should they hire first? On average, I know that every business is different. On average, who they should hire first, how they should delegate first, how they should start growing the business in a way where it's predictable. And I know that we all want to make $10 million a year overnight, all that stuff. But if you set yourself like that, then you end up losing or feel like you're losing. So I want you to expand on that.
We're talking about somebody who's at around 120 a year.
Correct. A 6-figure range, like beginning 6-figure year, how do they go from that to growing to the 7-8-figure level?
Josue, I would say there's probably 3 things. So the first thing is everybody who's at 6 figures sets the outcome of being over $1 million. What I would recommend is you pull the target closer for a year. And if you're at 120,000 a year, set the outcome of being at 200 or 250. And I know this is like totally contrary to the marketplace. And I know that it's not the big, hairy, audacious goal and you're supposed to dream and supposed to have these big numbers. But here's what I have a complete, like, proven track record of is having people come into our system who have been, at a number and they're setting 5 times that number or 10 times that number as their outcome. We get them to pull the target closer to maybe a 50% growth year or 100% growth year where they maybe double, like go from 120 to 240. And instead they go to 400 or 500. They finally have clarity as to how to get to that number. When you're at 120, getting to $1 million, you can't see the train tracks to get there. It's ambiguous what you should do next. It's not clear what you should be doing. And so the first thing I would say is pull the target closer. The second thing for $120,000 entrepreneur is get yourself some help. The vast majority of entrepreneurs wait way too long to get help. You do a 2-week time study, write down everything you're doing, evaluate it, and ask yourself, what on this list could somebody else help me do? Today, there is more help available for entrepreneurs than there has been at any time in human history. It's crazy. You can get help for $3 or $4 an hour, and people are wanting to work for you, and they will kill for you. And so, get help. Like, do a time study, look at what you're doing that's tactical, and start getting that stuff off your plate. Because at $120,000 a year, you are the growth engine of the business. You are the most important person in the business. And the third thing at that number, Josue, I've spent a lot of time with people who are worth 8 figures, 9 figures, and even billionaires. And when you get around people who are wildly successful, it is very clear they have one goal every day: win the day. Those are the people who have morning routines. Those are the people that are obsessive about their calendars. They're obsessive about taking care of themselves. And at $120,000 a year, what far too many entrepreneurs do is put everything in the business and stop taking care of themselves. They don't have a morning routine. They don't make sure that they're optimized. They're not eating the right foods. They're not drinking enough water. So if you're in that place, remember, the more optimized you are, the more productive you are, the more productive the entire business is. So pull the target closer, get some help, and make sure that you're taking care of the most important person in the business and the most important person in your world, yourself.
Yep, I agree. So let's just say somebody does listen to you and does implement this. What would you say? And this is like even like curious for me. It's like a business owner that's making X amount of dollars, they're making more dollars than ever seen in their entire life, which did happen to me in 2018. Because I come from DR. It's like I'm making $300 a month. Now I'm freaking making $100,000 a month.
Yeah.
So it's the big shift. So what would you say to somebody that's just hit a growth spurt or is making more cash than their entire family has ever seen in an entire lifespan? How would you handle the relationship with money?
In what context?
In my case, it took me a very long time to be comfortable seeing numbers in the bank account for like whatever reason. I know it sounds stupid. It's like even saying it out loud sounds stupid to myself, but it felt uncomfortable seeing $100,000 just sitting in the bank. It felt uncomfortable seeing $300,000 sitting in the bank. And then I was like, okay, I need to invest it, crypto, this and that. What would you say to the entrepreneur that's seeing that? And then it's like, okay, I need to go hit the, shiny object, the new next thing, or the new crypto pump, or the new AI thing, like versus sticking to what's working and focusing 100%. Like, I think that's what I mean by relationship with money.
Yeah, I think what happens to a lot, and by the way, it doesn't sound stupid to me what you're saying. I want you to know that. Like, it doesn't at all. I remember those feelings in my 20s when I was running that consulting firm. I remember the first year that I had $100,000 in the bank. It was like the weirdest feeling. I would go to and I didn't know what to do with it. Like, I had no clue. It was in a checking account. I would go to the bank and like my balance would be massive. And by the end of that decade, when I was, 30, the number was many times that. and I still didn't have any idea what to do with it. And I think what happens to us as entrepreneurs is we all want to go out and make a ton of money. And then once we do, there's this discomfort with it because it takes away this fight or flight that we've had. It takes away this pressure that we've had. It's like, oh man, now I've got the security that I wanted, or I have this foundation that I've always wanted, but it's hard to deal with. And I think for us as entrepreneurs, it's a matter of understanding exactly where you are, tracking your net worth, tracking your money, tracking your numbers. It's a matter of getting clear on the fact that this is what you wanted in the first place. Like, you've got to start celebrating the wins and understanding that you're going in the right direction. I think the entrepreneurs who have a really hard time with recognizing success are the ones who end up going backwards, and the ones who end up losing the money that they made. And so celebrating the wins, recognizing the success, understanding that you made that happen and getting really clear on that. And then knowing that, like, freedom for us as entrepreneurs, they say money doesn't buy happiness. I always joke, I always tell people, anybody who says money doesn't buy happiness hasn't given enough away. That's one way to look at it. And I believe in that. But I also think that for us as entrepreneurs, there's a certain amount of money that makes happiness an option. And so getting really clear on the fact that us having that cushion, having that foundation, having that security in our lives is a huge benefit to us.
What would you say to somebody, let's just say that hit the number, $100,000 in the bank, or 300 or $1 million? How do you keep going? Because it happened to me like in 2018. And I remember like the biggest client that I signed for like a 4-hour consulting gig, it was like $30,000, and it was just poop. I was like, and I remember in 2019, I stopped and then it went down. So what have you seen has been the driving factor for the entrepreneurs who keep going and keep pushing and grow it after they hit X number versus who hit the number and maybe just go backwards and they self-sabotage? Because I did that. I can attest.
I mean, I think everything that I just said is really important, but I actually have this letter that I wrote to a future CEO, and in there, I'm paraphrasing, it says something like, don't be surprised when the money that you have in your bank account doesn't feel important anymore, especially if you're not the one who did all the work to put it there. For us as entrepreneurs, it's wild. You earn money, you make money, and then there's this point where you have enough money that you don't need more, and you have what you want, and it's like, what do I do now? What do I do next? And what I always tell entrepreneurs is, like, you have to love what you're doing and you have to care about the people that you're doing it for. And I know there's a lot of coaches out there who talk about like, oh, screw like being passionate about what you're doing, just have a business that actually makes money. But man, I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, and the ones that long-term are successful, and the ones that have long-term wealth, and the ones that create generational wealth, and the ones that create a massive impact, absolutely love what they're doing, and they are wildly passionate about the people that they're helping. It's the type of thing where they would help those people anyway. And so if you're an entrepreneur and you start making the money, double down on the passion and the excitement and the care you have for the market that you serve, because the money will come, and then the money won't matter as much anymore. And then it's about the impact and the effect and how you help the people around you.
I love that. So I want to switch gears and talk to you about a topic that I think interests me and also a lot of other entrepreneurs. Let's just say you're growing a business or made money. How do you determine, like, let's just say the partner in your life, who's the right one? How do you manage a healthy relationship? I mean, I see you, it's like goals in terms of like you literally have everything. It's like the car, the house, the wife, the family, the kids. It's like, and what you said at the beginning of the podcast is like, you can have everything in life. It's not just one or the other. It's everything. The health, like everything. What would you say on that scenario? How do you like raise the kids? Like, how do you manage everything in a way where it's like you're able to make millions, help a ton of people, and then have everything else as well?
One of the things that I have on my wall over here is a plaque that says you can't have it all. And I have that on the wall to remind myself that as entrepreneurs, we're the people who make up the rules for our lives. And so we should make rules where we win. And I think there's far too much dialogue and dogma in the entrepreneurial world about how the only way to be successful is to sacrifice everything else. And what I've witnessed and seen in my life is those who sacrifice everything else oftentimes are not successful. And, I have a friend who shared a phrase with me, Larry, who runs the Dad Edge, Larry Hagner, said, I have some friends who are so poor, all they have is money. I know those people. I absolutely know those people. And it's like they've sacrificed everything. They've given up everything. They've given up their health, their youth, their ability to have a relationship, their connection with other people to put a whole bunch of money in the bank account. And it doesn't have to be that way. When it comes to relationships, I think if you're trying to find the person that you want, become the person that you would want to be with. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but there's so many people who aren't clear on who they want and who they want in their lives. And when you get really clear on who you want to be, and that's going to attract the right person to your life. And what I did before I met my wife, Katie, is I went through a process of getting really clear on who I was looking for, so that when that person showed up, I knew she was there. And I wrote out a list of like, what are the top 10 things I want in a person? I'm not talking like attractive or looks or anything like that. That's a given. You're not really going to engage with somebody you're not attracted to, but what are the things that I really wanted? I wanted somebody who lived outside the lines, who was adventurous like I was. I wanted somebody who didn't like look at conventions and how everybody else does stuff and was willing to do things differently. You know, I wanted someone who felt safe. I had some really unsafe relationships. So I wanted someone who felt safe, who felt grounded. And I got really clear on that. And that's how I was able to find Katie. The night that I met her, I knew that we would end up getting married. And we only spent about 3 or 4 hours together. The first night I called my mom and said, hey, I think I met the woman I'm going to marry. And about 6 weeks later, Katie was moving to Florida.
That's awesome. So how do you then, because you were running the business, right, at that time as well?
I was running another business. Yeah.
Okay. How were you able to manage both the relationship and the business? Did they ever was a time where it's like collide, or like, hey, I'm putting more time in here versus another?
I did something I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs would do. I met Katie. I was 30. I had been looking for a while to find somebody. I had some really bad relationships, and I understood that this one was different. And so I sold my business. I sold the company that I was in because it just wasn't going to be compatible with the type of life that I wanted to have. I don't think everybody needs to do that. You know, I think if you want to have a successful and healthy relationship, I know this doesn't sound exciting, but process in a relationship changes everything. You know, I'm all about process, structure, and routine. And I want everybody to know, like, I wasn't born this way. I fought process. I fought structure. I don't like stuff on my calendar. You know, I don't even like calendars, honestly. You know, I don't love meetings. I have to like talk myself into almost everyone that I go to, just like I have my clients do. This is, Katie said this, I don't want to take her quote, but she once said, you know, process in a marriage doesn't sound sexy, but you end up having a lot more sex. And it's kind of a joke, but the reality is, if you have process where you are connecting with your significant other, with the person you're in a relationship with, if you're sitting down on a daily basis and aligning, if you're sitting down on a weekly basis saying, here's what I'm going to do, here's what you're going to do, if you're sitting down on a monthly basis and saying, what are the big expenses that we have this month, you know, what do we need to plan for, if you're sitting down quarterly and saying, what do we want to achieve as a couple, when you put those systems in place, you create a process that takes you out of the most common reasons that marriages fail or that relationships fail. And those are arguments about money, lack of communication, and arguments about other things in the relationship, like a lack of trust, a lack of connection, a lack of intimacy. When you put process in a marriage where you're talking about finances, where you're aligning on a daily basis so you understand each other, where you're creating intimacy, it completely changes the relationship and makes it stronger.
Could you give me like an example? Because I'm curious about this myself. I'm in a great relationship, and I'm like, okay, how do I make sure the business keeps running, and then we're also moving forward? Because like we have all, you know, big goals and everything. How do you align on a daily basis? The second I wake up, for example, I'm like, go, 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 go. It's like gym, we go to the gym together, boom, breakfast, boom, go up until, I don't know, 8 p.m. or whatever. And then we come back and it's like, oh, we're tired. You know, so it's like, how do you structure or align on a daily basis or weekly, quarterly, etc.? I know how to do it because I went through your program on the business side, right? How do you do it now on the relationship side?
I think it's tough for me to go through the whole process because we teach a structure. We teach a structure that starts with the year, then goes to the quarter, then the month and the week and the day. But let's just talk about the day, because I've taught just this process to a ton of entrepreneurs, and without any of the rest of it, this has been life-changing for their marriages. In fact, you know, Josue, you've known me for a long time, and I'm that person that when something happens in someone's life, they often reach out to me. Like, I haven't heard from somebody in 5 years. I hear when the marriage is having issues or the business is having issues or there's a problem with a kid. You know, I'm proud to be that person for a lot of people. You know, I think there's like this term fair weather friends. I guess when everything's going really well, I'm the opposite of whatever that is. When everything's going bad, people call me. I have a lot of experience with specifically entrepreneurs. What Katie and I do on a daily basis is each one of us does our planning. You know, to me, ready, aim, fire is one of the most important concepts in an entrepreneur's life, because the vast majority of entrepreneurs are doing fire, ready, aim. And so daily basis, I sit down and I answer a number of questions in my momentum planner. This is a product that we sell. Thousands of entrepreneurs around the world use it. And I answer, what was I grateful for the day before? Where did I win the day before? What is my intention for the day? Where was I uncomfortable yesterday? And what are the top 3 things that I need to get done? And Katie does the same thing, and we get together and we share that. It takes 5 to 10 minutes, but it's this time where we are focused on each other, and I understand what she's doing and thinking and feeling, and she understands what I'm doing and thinking and feeling, and it creates a level of intentional intimacy. Because here's what happens, Josue. Our businesses have a ton of process, have a ton of structure, have a ton, even those who aren't working with us. Like, the business will take your time. The relationship will not. The relationship doesn't demand your time. And you know, that scenario you just described about getting up, go, and then we're tired at the end of the day, that works for a period of time. But then sometimes entrepreneurs look up and they're like, man, there's no intimacy here. There's no connection here. It's like we're roommates. And so you have to proactively combat that by creating the space and time where you connect with each other.
And I agree. So what's funny about system and process, I had to create my own system and processes for like date night or whatever. And now like literally my ClickUp board has a randomizer that picks up a random spot in Miami, and my assistant goes in there and books it for me. And I'm not even kidding you, it's real. And then both myself and my girl were like, oh my God, we're going to this amazing restaurant that we've never been. Like, this weekend we're going AVTVing or whatever that 4-wheel thing is. And I'd never done that. So it's like, it's very funny how all that works, but I 100% agree with you. For those that are now saying, okay, Alex can help me on the business side and the relationship, which I think are 2 main pillars. Obviously the health, you have a lot of stuff around health. You mentioned the water thing. Can you expand on that? And like, why is that important?
Yeah, it's hilarious. So we have this thing called the 10-day natural thirst challenge. And it is a 10-day process you go through to drink more water. You can access it at getthirstynow.com. I don't know, it's got to be over 10,000 people who've gone through it now. We don't put ads behind it. It's not the best website in the world. There's not a tremendous amount of SEO. Every single day, people go through this process. I've spent a lot of time with entrepreneurs, and here's what I know about our personality type. We're more sensitive than the rest of the world. And I don't mean sensitive as in we feel a lot of feelings. I mean sensitive as in we're sensitive to our hydration level. We're sensitive to the energy around us. We're sensitive to the world around us. A lot of us are empaths. We feel the things that are going on around us. One of the first things that can get you in trouble is being dehydrated. You know, if you look at the top 20 prescription drugs in the United States and you take out birth control, those drugs treat a whole number of things. They treat ADD, depression, anxiety, all kinds of different stuff. They also treat the symptoms of dehydration. And so if you're fully hydrated, it's crazy how much more you can get done, how much more present you are, how much more aware you are. So when it comes to working with entrepreneurs, I take a holistic approach, like being hydrated and being fully present and fully aware over time. That's not like 1% per year of increase or 1% per week or per day of increase. That is putting you ahead of the rest of the world because you're hydrated, you're present, you're aware, you're making better decisions, you're in momentum. And so when it comes to running a business, the way I look at it is, if you ever believe you can have $1 million business, then you're $1 million racehorse. And I've been around $1 million racehorses. My father-in-law, who passed away a few years ago, was huge into thoroughbred racing, and he took us to races. And dude, when there's $1 million racehorses, you know it's $1 million racehorse. They have a trainer, they have somebody who's walking them, they have a special jockey, they have a special diet. Like, you would never ever in a million years not understand that was a very important horse. When you look at most entrepreneurs, we're treating ourselves like the horse that is going to the glue factory. Like, we're beating the crap out of ourselves. We're not taking care of ourselves. If you start self-care, to me, for an entrepreneur, is a gateway drug to success. And the reason I focus so much on water is, if an entrepreneur starts drinking more water and they're hydrated and they're doing it the right way, all of the sudden, everything else in their lives gets easier. And then they start saying, okay, if I optimize water, like, to me, water is a gateway. Hydration is a gateway drug to getting healthier and to feeling better about yourself. And so for a long time in my career, helped entrepreneurs grow businesses that ended up in a lot of cases hurting the entrepreneur because they didn't take care of themselves. And so as I learned how to grow businesses faster and I learned how to show entrepreneurs how to have more success, what became really important to me was how do you protect that entrepreneur and how do you make sure that they're okay?
Apart from the food you consume and the water, how big do you feel the environment plays a role in this? Or like maybe like toys. I know that you have an amazing Porsche. I don't know if you still have it. I remember like having that beautiful Porsche that rose like a lion. How important do you feel the environment or toys or trophies, if you will, is for the, let's just say, healthy mindset or for the entrepreneur to stay in a healthy place to keep running the business?
Creating a life that you want out of the money you make is wildly important, and creating the environment you want and the space that you want. Now, I say that with caution because I think there's far too many entrepreneurs out there today that are making some money and then completely burying themselves in debt and payments and all kinds of other stuff that raises pressure and noise and oftentimes leads to the failure of a business. I've seen it too many times where somebody has a big year, they go out and buy the car and the house or whatever it is, and then they can't make those payments, and then there's this huge implosion. Now, that being said, once you start making the money and you can do it and maybe paying cash and like doing it in a way that's safe, having the stuff that you want, I think it's a huge part of why we're entrepreneurs and why we do what we do. I don't have the Porsche anymore. I traded it in on a custom BMW or a BMW that I completely customized. Actually, I still have the Porsche. I sold it this week. So I'm looking at a couple of other cars that I might buy. But I think that, you know, that stuff's important. I think as entrepreneurs, we do everything that we do for a reason. Experiencing that level of success is important as long as we don't allow it to increase the noise in our lives. You know, honestly, Josue, I sold 2 of my cars this week. The reason is they kept running out of batteries. I have a whole bunch of cars. 2 of them are like, I don't drive them that often. And the battery kept running out and dying. And I kept having to buy new batteries. I'm like, this isn't good for me. It's not good for the cars. So I'm lowering the noise in my life by like letting go of some things that I don't really need. I love those cars while I had them. I will always have very fast, loud cars. A friend of mine said, when are you going to stop buying the prop cars from Fast and the Furious? And I'm like, why would I ever do that? You know? Yeah. And so like, I'll always have those types of cars, but at the same time, I balance that with like, hey, where is the noise coming from in my life? And do I really need this?
Yeah. I'm like, actually this week, I'm getting first upgrade in terms of cars. So a Mercedes S580, like the luxury, you know, roller. So I'm like, I'm excited for it. So
congratulations, man. That's a beautiful car.
I appreciate it. So now that people have heard you in terms of the business, which I have implemented, trust me, it works. Like I said before, every time I listen to Alex Charfen, I make money. Every single time I try to be fancy and try to pretend that I know better, I not make as much money. On the relationship side and on the health side, if people want to find out more about you, where can they go? And then also, what would you say as words from your experience and your entire story? What would you say to those who are hearing this for the first time or maybe feeling like isolated? Because I remember like feeling like that when I came into your program, feeling isolated, immigrant from the ER, living in the middle of nowhere in Indiana. And then I hear your stuff and I'm like, it struck a nerve so hard that I was like, it made me emotional. So like, what would you say to those people that are hearing you for the first time right now?
So first, if you want to hear more, you can go to momentumpodcast.com. We have a podcast too. It's called Momentum for the Entrepreneurial Personality Type. My whole life is about momentum, getting in it and staying in it and helping other people do that. And if you want help with your business, you can go to simpleoperations.com and sign up for a call. When it comes to being an entrepreneur, Josue, here's the reality of being like you and I. Our whole lives, we have felt different than everybody else. And we always felt like the odd man out, like a party of one, like we don't belong. You know, I have a Latin American background too. I was born in Mexico, so I know how weird it is to be the person that says, I'm not going to college. I'm not going to become a doctor, a lawyer, or like any of the accepted professions. Yeah. And I'm going to go do this thing on my own. You know what I'm talking about, right? There's, I think it's joked around that like in certain cultures, you can be a doctor, a lawyer, or a failure. I was the failure. Yeah. Right. And for any of you, anyone listening who's feeling like you're alone and you're different and you don't have a place to belong and it feels isolating and frustrating, here's what I want you to know. Every single one of us has felt exactly like you're feeling right now. And every single one of us goes through bouts of where we're feeling like you're feeling right now. It never goes away. As entrepreneurs, we are the people in the world that survived the system or gamed the system, but the system is not set up for us. But here's what I want every one of you to know. It doesn't matter what you're going through. It doesn't matter what issue you're having. It doesn't matter what diagnosis or disorder fear or whatever you've had thrust upon you. One of us, someone just like you, has gone through that in the past and has overcome it and gone on to change the world. I say this with 100% confidence because I've watched it over and over again. There is nothing wrong with you and you are not alone. If you feel isolated and alone and like a party of one, then you are part of the most important club in history. The club of people who get up every morning, go into the future, create a new reality, come back to the present and demand it becomes real. We are that small percentage of the population that challenges the status quo, that is continuously moving forward and can't turn it off, and we don't understand why anyone would want to. And so if that's who you are and that's how you feel and you've always felt different and you know you need to go forward and you know you need to make a contribution and change the world, then have 100% confidence that you absolutely can, and it doesn't matter what's going on around you. If you put enough effort in and you keep yourself moving forward and you take care of yourself, you will overcome whatever it is and go out and make your dent in the universe. That's why we're on this planet.
I absolutely love that. I remember like hearing that for the first time. I was like, oh, that it just struck the nerve so hard. It was crazy. And I don't know if you know this, but the first million, I made it as I came into your program, right? And I remember when I got the first 2 Comma Club award on stage in front of like 3,000 or 5,000 people, whatever the number is. And my parents walked into the room and they saw me up on stage, and they're like, before it was like, Josue, go be an engineer. It's like, I'm an engineer, but the guy's like, Josue, go be an engineer, go exercise your master's degree, go do something. Stop playing the computer. And then they saw me there, and my dad, I remember like seeing like, what is this? Number one. And then he said to Josue, I didn't believe until I saw it, so I'm sorry.
Holy crap.
Guys, to this day, I still like, I get emotional just thinking about it because I remember it. And
dude, I'm getting emotional just hearing it. That's amazing, dude. Congratulations.
Yeah. Appreciate it. And
so few of us have had that moment with our parents, honestly.
So it's safe to say that your stuff has transformed my life. Business, everything in a great way. If anybody's watching this, go follow Alex. I promise you, you're going to make more money in every single level and be successful in every level as well. Because the thing that I love the most about your stuff is it is uncomfortable AF. I'm going to say it straight. It is uncomfortable at the beginning, but after a while, it gets part of a routine. And then you start seeing results that you're like, how did this even happen? And you don't understand and you can't piece it together, but it just simply works. So I promise you it does. So go ahead to follow. And man, I appreciate you taking the time being here. Any last words before we end?
Dude, I just want to tell you thank you. I appreciate you like crazy. It's been way too long, and I'm glad that we got to spend some time together. Dude, from one Latin American to another, you make me proud, man. Watching what you're doing, and I love watching you grow and go out and change people's lives. And so thanks for everything that you're doing and for being an inspiration to so many people who are like you and I.
Great enough. We're going to the Latin American market. So we're going like hard to the Latin American market because I believe I want to change Latin American how they think. It's like in my head. It's like I cannot keep going I cannot have all the success in English that I have and not help people in Latin America. So we're going hard in there. So
that's exciting. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
In my 20s, that business that I had, one of the goals that I had was to bring the Latin American market into like the current technology because they were about 4 years behind. And in the time that I had that business, we got it down to about 6 months. I just got chills when you said you're going in the Latin American market because I know massive impact. One person who believes in that market and believes that there's entrepreneurs down there just like you and I can make a massive difference. So dude, that's crazy exciting.
Well, man, thank you so much for being here. Follow Alex and hit him up if you actually want to start having simple operations in your business and life. See you next time. Bye-bye.